Hi and welcome to this channel. My name is Richa and I welcome you to this series of videos. Today is Christmas and it marks exactly 1 year that we landed in Canada. There is no day better than today for me to start this channel and share my journey of making this decision to move to Canada on a study permit at age 41. Why I moved to Canada? Join me on this journey. To give you a background, before I moved to Canada, I had about 17 years of work experience in the banking and finance industry, of which the last 4 years were in Singapore. Why move from Singapore to Canada? Well, that's one question so many of my family and friends asked of me. Now, when you cross age 40, there are times when you start thinking about your retirement. Where do you plan to retire? I had a choice of, did I want to go back to India or, plan for some other place? Now, Singapore was a fantastic place to settle down. You have security, you have less taxes, proximity to India. But as we all know, the permanent residence or the PR process in Singapore is very selective. I had been in Singapore for a few years and I realized over time that getting a PR in Singapore is really very tough. I had colleagues who had tried to apply for PR a few times but their applications got rejected. And as I was aging, I really thought that it's high time that I take a decision and move to a country of my choice and be in that country so that I contribute to the economy and save up for my retirement as well. And that's when I came across many colleagues who had started applying either for Australia or for New Zealand or for Canada. I had not heard of many people moving to Canada at my age in Singapore, but yeah, I knew of people who were willing to relocate to UK. I had relatives in UK and I did not want to move to UK for some reason, and that's the reason when I thought of climate change, that if there were any climate change to happen and Australia might be having so many bushfires. But if there were a drastic climate change to happen, what could happen in Canada would be that the ice would melt. So that was one of the reasons, why I zeroed down on, I would say Canada. Well, that was not the only thing. The first thing, that I came across when I started exploring about immigrating to Canada was that there's this express entry system. I knew of people who had moved from India to Canada a few years ago, but I thought the process then was seamlessly simple. When I tallied my score, my CRS score was abysmally low. Because I'm a single parent, I did not have any spouse points and I was aging. I was already 40 when I had started thinking about immigrating to Canada. The one thing where I thought that I could score more points was scoring the highest level in my IELTS exam. And that's when I started preparing for the IELTS exam. Thankfully, I scored CLB 10. I'll make separate videos as to how I achieved that CLB level 10 score. But nonetheless, I gave my IELTS exam, and at the same time, I started doing the education credential evaluation, the ECA as they call it, education credential assessment. One of the biggest mistakes that I made on my ECA was that I went through ICAS, IQAS. I had viewed some videos on YouTube which mentioned that if you have your MBA done in India, which is a diploma, which typically is the case, that most of the MBAs that we get, whether it's IIM or any of the institutes, they typically are postgraduate diploma in business management, a PGDBM degree, and that unfortunately is not counted as a master's program. Even though you've studied for 2 years after your graduation program, that MBA will still be counted as a diploma and you get less points, or you're just counted as a bachelor's. So nonetheless, I sent my transcripts to ICAS, and ICAS takes some bit of time, but I was hopeful that I might get those master's points. Unfortunately, my university, I studied from Symbiosis. I did my MBA from Symbiosis, and university at that point in time, the year I graduated, they were not part of a Symbiosis International University, and that's again one of the reasons why I probably I submitted RTI applications as to why is this not a registered university and why should I not get points as masters. But nonetheless, I think I wasted a few months there, and by the time my applications or my ECA transcript came back, I had crossed age 41, and my CRS score was at that point in time was 380. There was no chance that I could even dream about Canada, and that's when when I started thinking about, did I try all the routes? And thanks to a big shout out to Mr. Amarjot Singh's videos. There were a few videos there where he posted that people at the age of 40 plus or 35 plus, after a massive study gap, were able to successfully get study permits. And that's how I started my journey on how I applied for a study permit at age 41. The road was tough, I would not say that. And the first thing was, how I chose universities, and whether it was a university or a college, writing a statement of purpose, writing those visa application forms, and so it wasn't an easy journey. And especially I had my dependent, I had my daughter with me, who I did not want to leave back. Of course, I wanted to apply for her visa along with my study permit, and so many videos and so many forums that I had read, they all talked about that as a parent, if you are above the age of 40, you should be only applying for your single study permit, and only once it's approved, once you've landed in Canada, is when you should be applying for your children or a family's visas. I was quite skeptical of it, and I did not want to take that route, and that's the reason why I thought that I have to, if this application goes through, it has to go together with my daughter, or we'll see what comes. So this is my initial thing of how I applied for a study permit. I applied to a number of universities, did not go through many of them, but finally one of the universities gave me this opportunity to join their program, and yes, and then that's when we landed in Canada on Christmas last year, and at the age of 41, and it was just me on a study permit and my daughter, who just came on a normal visitor record. And through this channel, I would like to share my experiences of how I applied to universities, how I shortlisted universities, how I prepared for my IELTS exam, and the entire visa process, about how to get your dependents to your application together with your application, and that'll be my humble attempt. I'll be more than happy to at least, if I as a single parent could do it at this age, I just hope that I'm able to inspire people who are planning to make this decision and move to Canada at a higher age. I had a massive study gap. I had the last I went to college was like 17 years ago before I moved to Canada, but it has been such an enriching experience. I am glad that I've already completed 3 semesters of my study, and I would love to share more of my experiences in this last 1 year that I have been in Canada, and I really hope that I could be of help to any of you. Thank you, and stay tuned. I would love if you could subscribe to the channel. I might be having some opportunities to have those one-to-one meetings that people can book with me, and I'll be more than happy to help and support you people. Thank you, and that's all for now. I look out for other videos as well where I share detailed steps of how I applied for universities. Thank you, and stay tuned. Bye-bye.